Thanks, Mike. Obviously, you want to be playing on Monday. I mean, every team that started the tournament probably had visions of, at least hoping that they could win the first round game and then move on. And, we have a game tomorrow against a really good team that plays exceptionally well together. And I don't think it's going to be an easy game for us. But I like the way our team played yesterday, and I'm anxious to get going tomorrow.
Okay, we'll take questions from student athletes. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and Lexi from our office has a microphone here. So, questions for student athletes? All right, Mike.
Thanks. For both, please. Just your impressions of Quinnipiac, what you've learned over the last 12 or so, whatever hours, what you expect from them.
We're expecting them to be really ready to play, and they're a really good team that plays well together, and they play really hard. And, they have some good shooters and some good matchups where they're going to, try to take us one-on-one. So we all have to be ready to go 1 through 5 to be able to guard our man and make sure we're in help.
Yeah, like Lou said, I think they're just a really great team. They play hard. They do a good job of finding the shooters, trying to suck in the defense and then kick it out. So we've been focusing on that, and we're all going to have to be ready to go.
Ian in the back.
This is for both. How important is it to send off Kia and Gabby the right way tomorrow night?
It's really important. It's their last Gamble game ever, so we want to make sure we have a great game, and our team does too. It's our last time playing in front of our fans at home this season, so we want to just make sure we're ready to go and really send them out on the right note.
Yeah, and they're our senior leaders, and so we want their last experience in Gamble to be a great one.
Any other questions for student athletes? Pat up front.
Anyone who would watched yesterday would probably look at this team and say, well, they have nothing left to work on. Obviously, that's probably not the message that CD and Coach Auriemma gave to you. So can you guys assess where you are right now in terms of where you want to be, and what is it that you're working on and that you hope to get done tomorrow?
Yeah, that's not the message that we got. But I think just staying focused and having, we had the performance that we had yesterday, but we have to be consistent with that. And so we need to come out tomorrow with the same type of energy and effort and continue to work on the things that we need to get better at.
Yeah, I think energy-wise, we were all ready to go, and we had contributions from almost everyone on the team yesterday, so that's really good and a positive for us. But we know there's always little things that we can get better at here and there, and we can really focus on making sure everything we do is the same no matter who we're playing.
Questions for student athletes? Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. They can be back down in the locker room, which continues to stay open, and we will take questions for Coach Auriemma with Bob. Bob, yell it out. You can do it without the microphone.
Gino, can you talk to your relationship with Christian? How you've been? You talked about how you've been such a huge supporter of Quinnipiac basketball.
Obviously, I've known Trish for a long, long time since she was a player, and to be able to see what she's done and how far they've come. What's really impressive is that she's young, but she's an old-fashioned coach. She instills old-fashioned values into her team, the way they play and the way they carry themselves. And when you watch them up close and you see them play in person, you're not surprised at the success that they've had. So it's no big shock that they're playing tomorrow night. I just think she's found the right formula that works at Quinnipiac, and it would work anywhere, but it works especially at a school like that attracts really, really good students and good players, and she's been able to establish an identity. This is who we are. We play hard. We're competitive. We're tough, and it doesn't take long to realize that it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't play well, you're going to be in trouble.
In the back, and then Mike Anthony, and then we'll.
Gino, obviously, back here. You haven't played Quinnipiac in years. Is there something that they do, something specific that they do that you haven't seen this year? That's something that they can take advantage of.
I can't say that there's anything in particular. They do what most good teams do. They maximize their personnel, and they put them in spots to be good, and they get the most out of each possession. They don't come down and just waste possessions, and all good teams do that, and their defense allows them to stay in games, and they've got enough players that make shots that they're dangerous. I remember having a team like that back in the day, and we couldn't wait to play teams like the team I have now. So I kind of know where they are.
We'll go Dom and then Mike.
Gino, what do you remember about the game that you played them 20 years ago? And particularly, why did you choose to schedule Quinnipiac then? They were a brand new Division I program. Obviously, it was helpful to them, I imagine. But, what do you remember about going into that game and that game?
I remember we had a really, really good team, maybe as good a team as we'd had up to that point. And like with any other scheduling thing, a lot of times there's people contacting us and saying, hey, we want to play. At the time, they were just getting started, and we were, I think we might have been number one in the country. I don't know, but we were really good. It might have been Shea's freshman year. I don't know when it was, but it was close to that. Yeah, and we actually, I think we were better than the team that we have now in some ways. So we were just really hard to play against. I remember that. We were really hard to play against. And a lot of times teams will do that. They'll want to play us, give their kids a chance to see, hey, this is what it's like. And I enjoy that aspect of it for anybody. And I never put pressure on teams. If a team doesn't want to play us, they don't want to play us. I'm not going to force them to. We're not going to offer them a lot of money to play us either. There's enough teams that want to play us, and they knew this is what we want. And now they haven't called since, except I think it may have been a couple years ago. We had something scheduled with them. We had an agreement to play them, but something came up, and we had to postpone it. So I'm sure we'll do it again.
Is that how, as a very young coach, she called you up and said, we want to play you?
Yeah, I think that it was either her or somebody at the school. And sometimes there's just talk among administrators like, hey, this would be a great thing for you guys. It'd be a great thing for Connecticut basketball, so to speak. So that's kind of how it comes about. There's even games that we end up playing where the coach says, I'm not playing this game. But somebody at the school says, yes, you are.
Mike, Jim, and then Pat.
Gino, you mentioned the way Quinnipiac carries itself. It seems like a team with some moxie, some swagger, and they should feel that way, having won so many games that they have. It seems like a team that won't be beaten just before the game, just by lining up in front of you guys.
Right.
Is that rare? Do you feel like a lot of times you have teams beaten before the ball goes up, and how will that be different tomorrow?
I don't know. I'm not in there. I'm not in the other team's shoes or the coach's shoes. I just look at them and I know that they'll have the personality of their coach, and she's not going to back down, and neither are they, and they're not going to be intimidated by us. if they get beat by us, they're not gonna lose to us by just showing up and saying, okay, what do you want the score to be? They're not going to do that. And regardless whether they win or they lose, they're going to play the same way. And some teams, yeah, I mean, a lot of teams, they talk themselves into a loss before they even play, and I think they're embracing it. You know, I want to play this game. I want to play against these guys. I want to play Monday night in this building. You know, and I think that's admirable. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
Jim, then Pat, then Eric in the back.
You know, when you started, you guys played a bunch of Connecticut teams, a bunch of New England teams, and now, because of circumstances a lot out of your hands, you don't. Do you miss those days where you could just get, you know, right around the corner and you get to play, you know, a New England rival or even a Connecticut rival?
Yeah, that used to happen a lot, and I think as things changed for us, I think teams were reluctant to schedule us anymore. And yet at the same time, with all of our commitments that we have and all the big TV games that we play in, there's very little room on your schedule anymore. So, yeah, I miss those days when you just get on a bus and, you know, it was like high school. Get on a bus, drive a couple hours, go play, and come back home. And you didn't have phones. You actually had to sit there, and my players had to talk to me. They had nobody else to talk to. So I do miss those days, for sure.
Pat, and then Eric in the back.
You know, there are 6 teams that were 10 seeds or higher that advanced out of the first round. People look at what happened yesterday here, and the Twitter universe explodes with the disparity in women's college basketball. Can you address kind of the perception versus reality and how the game is growing and where you think the things stand in terms of parity and getting?
Well, I'm not surprised that a lot of those lower seeded teams won. I'm not surprised at all. I've seen most of them play, and I bet you when the brackets came out, we looked at each other, a bunch of us, and we went, "That's not an easy game right there for them. They might think it is, but that's not an easy game." I just said something to Kara Lawson about that. Some of the mid-major schools, they play a style of play that the bigger programs aren't accustomed to, and I'm not surprised that Florida Gulf Coast won. If you've ever seen them play in person, you'll know why they won. I'm not surprised that, you know, Central Michigan won or Buffalo won or Quinnipiac won. I'm not surprised at all. All you have to do is watch them play. And if you know anything about basketball, you go, that's a good team. And whoever's playing them is going to have their hands full. As far as what happened here yesterday, you know, people are like almost like dying to get a game like that so that they can, you know, rise up and talk about the disparity in college basketball. Last time I checked, the same 4 teams win the national championship in football every year. Could be wrong, might be 5. You know, and last time I checked, every score in September is like 80-20, if I'm not mistaken. So this happens. It happens. It's not something that's unique to just women's basketball, but it happens. You know, it's rare, but it happens. I don't think that's indicative of where women's basketball is just because that happened. You know, that dope from USA Today, I don't even know his name, but I guarantee you he didn't see the game. He doesn't know what happened. He didn't talk to the other coach. You know? If he ever wrote a lot of good articles and somebody said that he was too good to write, but that'll never happen, so he doesn't have to worry about the things that we worry about. We just try to play basketball. We don't go out to beat anybody by a certain amount at all, ever. And everybody's got an opinion. You know, I went to a baseball game one time. They scored 22 runs. I bet you the manager in the 7th inning didn't go, listen, go up there and swing and miss. Seriously? I mean, what do you? But it's good to take a shot at women's basketball, so we just gave them an opportunity to do that.
Eric in the back.
Gino, when the brackets came out, were you hopeful that this game would happen on Monday night, just for the good of the fans of basketball in our state and how much they'd enjoy it?
You know, I've really stopped. I've stopped saying, I hope we play them. Because sure as hell, either they're going to lose or I hope we play them. Then we play the team that I hope we play, and it's murder. Now, there are times when, like I'll give you, for instance, Louisville a few years ago was playing Dayton up in Albany. And I remember sitting there going, oh, dear God, I hope Louisville wins. Because we're familiar with them. We've played them. We know them. And sure as hell, Dayton wins. And I'm just, the whole night, I'm like, this is going to be brutal. And it was a one-point game at halftime. So there's times when you look at the bracket and you say, that's not a good matchup for us. But I've kind of shot away from that anymore. But now that it's happened, I'm glad that they're playing. You know, I think it says a lot about them and Connecticut basketball and, you know, the fact that they were seeded 9th is a pretty good number for their league. And they're representing themselves, you know. It's not an accident.
In the back, too.
So Quinnipiac has been pretty dominant in the MAC the past couple of years, and there's been rumblings about them wanting to get out of that conference and move up. I'm curious to know how you think they would stack up, say, against the teams you've seen in the American.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are way too good for their league. They're bad for their league. They win too much. I noticed some of the other coaches in their league were complaining about that recently. So, yeah, we'd love to have them in our league. I think they would be great in our league. As I said, she's a phenomenal coach. And right now she's dominating where she is. And wherever she went, she would be really, really good. You know, when you're a good coach, you're a good coach. And if you have the right players, you're a really good coach. And if you manage to recruit some great players, they start calling you a great coach. They would do well in our league.
Gino, you talked about your friendship and respect with Coach Fabry. What do you think about her makes her different from many other coaches, and how has that difference made her so successful and at the mid-major level?
I said it last year. It's not very becoming for a Catholic girl to swear the way she does on camera. And I told her about it, and she said, don't ever talk to me about that. I've seen you on the camera. And I brought that up because she's a really tough individual. There's no nonsense about her. There's no playing games. There's no sugarcoating anything. She tells you, this is how I feel. And she has the respect of her players. So what's different about her is she's not afraid to coach her players. And she gets players that want to be coached. And I think too many times, you know, coaches tiptoe around stuff. And she certainly doesn't do that. And that's why her team plays with the kind of attitude that they play. Because she embodies that. I love that about her.